tell me a bit more about that? That's EI, isn't it? Emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Like how do you develop that skill?
I don't know if you can fully develop. I think it's a trait. It's a skill that people have, right? It's how your brain's wired, but you can refine it, right? You can understand what it is. And like any skill, you can, like I say, refine it, practice it, learn more about it. So I just found that in my career that people warm to me quite a bit, right? Or that at least that's what I used to call it. And I actually, over again, the advantages of experiences, I found that without realizing subconsciously, I make a lot of effort to try and understand the psychology of people. I naturally watch people's body language, naturally listen to what they're saying, have a natural tendency to understand the why, right? Great TED Talk, Simon Sinek, why great leaders are great leaders, but he talks about the power of why. And I constantly ask that. I constantly ask, so what? Why do you want to do that? And I try and understand the psychology of someone, right? Not so much the in-depth psychology, but the psychology of why it is they want to do something, why they want to purchase this software, why they want to purchase this company, why they want to sell the company. What is it you're looking for, right? What would you, after you sell this company, right? What would you do after you sell that bit of software? If you're a salesperson and you're going to get some commission for it, well, what does that commission mean to you? Like some examples of that. I remember when I was in the US, there was a sales lady called Courtney that I managed, and she's a beautiful person, very, very capable. And I remember talking to her one time about, sales. I was like, here's your target for the year. And if you do all this stuff, this is what this is your base salary and this is what you're going to earn. And I could tell from her body language it wasn't resonating with her. And I just asked her directly, I says, Courtney, like, are you listening to what I'm saying? Is it making sense? And she says, but money doesn't really motivate me. And straight away my ears were up, right? So I'm like, well, what does motivate you? And her and her boyfriend, long-term boyfriend, Ryan, a very successful chef. They were living in Calgary at the time, and they talked about owning a vineyard in Kelowna, right, which is the kind of wine region in Canada, which I knew nothing about at the time. So I asked her some details about that, and she told me about the kind of acreage she wanted to buy, how much that would cost. So I said, I'll tell you what, Courtney, right, as we work through the year, let's talk, instead of talking about money, let's talk about that's another virtual acre of that vineyard you've bought. And it was amazing to see the transition in her reaction to that. We used to joke about it. And, she never actually, in hindsight, she never actually got the vineyard. Her and her husband now live in London and have a very successful chain of pizzas called Detroit Pizza. So that's how that manifested itself. But the point of the story is, for that 2 or 3 years that Courtney and I worked together, not just, there was other people as well, but like we used to talk then every time we do a deal or every time we were going to a meeting to close a deal or build up to a deal or uncover a new prospect, I used to joke with her and say, right, there's another acre in the vineyard we're going to get today. And she'd, her face would light up and she'd go, right, let's do it. And the reality of that never manifested, right? But it was just the emotional connection around that understanding. For her, it was very motivating, right? And it was for me then too, because it is much more exciting talking about that stuff than it is about money and stuff. So, and I live my own life like that. Every project, if I call it that, I think all the time, but what does this mean, right? Normally in my life, it normally transacts as money, but it's not. I don't think about the money. It's going to go here. It's another vacation, or it's something else paid off the mortgage, or it's even paying off the mortgage. I even think it's not paying off the mortgage. It's what does that free cash flow when I don't have a mortgage? What does that extra cash allow me to do, right? So I continually think in that context. So I think back to the emotional intelligence thing for me is like, I think it's a really good superpower to have that ability and refine it to understand people.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, like, when you understand people and their motivations, and as I assume as a leader in in the roles that you're in, then you're able to motivate them.
Yeah, you're able to go. Like I talk and think a lot about not just in business, but particularly in business, but not just. I think a lot about like the journey and the destination, right? Like where we're going to go, right? So I mean, I could give you 100 examples. If if we're selling a business, right, and there's a co-owner of the business, right, and you sit down and it's very easy to get into the details of, well, how are we going to value the business? Is it a multiplier of profitability? Is it overall revenue? Is it a technology play? That this technology is worth something to somebody, and very easy to get into that and look at multipliers, right? But the bottom line is like, if you can visualize what it is, what are you going to do after it? Let's assume, right, you sell this business for $10 million, right? What are you going to do with the $10 million? What does your life look like after that? Right? It's why do you actually want to sell it? What does that mean? Right? And I think if you can understand that journey and destination with people and buy into it, a big part of emotional intelligence is empathy. Right? Get involved in that, and visualize the thing, right? Visualize the thing and the life and the events that are going to happen after that. It's a really big help in terms, of moving through stuff, right? So, you get in and you think, if you go back then to numbers, say, and I'm picking on selling the business, that's a 3x or it's a 4x or it's a 5x multiplier on it. It's a lot easier to have those conversations. Say, well, it's the difference between 8 million, 10 million, and 12 million. Really, does that, as a really good friend and business partner said to me, the burger all tastes the same, right? So trying not to get hung up on the practicalities of those types of things and focusing more on what's the result, right? The same for like when we're selling product or service to a customer. It's like, guys, my world, I'm 25 years selling software solutions to people, right? And, in the world of software, I hear everybody talks about data in, right? I hear sales people and product people and marketing people. You can put your stuff in here. This is how you put this in. Here's how you set up your users. Here's how you work the configuration, right? And I'm looking at it going like, so what, right? Like, wouldn't we be far better sitting down with a customer or prospect, potential customer or existing, and saying like, just imagine for a minute, right? We can get all that stuff in. Just clear your mind of, are we able to or not for a second? Just imagine we could. So tell me, the question I always ask is, what's the business decision impacted? So what? It's the so what question, right? What is it like? What do you want to do? Right? And I kind of, if you're good at your job and you've done your research, you kind of know the answer to that. But the answer then is, well, we need to increase profitability by 20%, right? Well, that's great, right? So tell me then, like, what are the business decisions impacted, or in order to get there, what do you feel you need to see or monitor? What is that? Tell me about the decisions first, but tell me about what's the dashboard, right? What's the data you need to see to do that? And if you tell me that, let me and my team worry about how we get all that data together for you. And if you can nail that at the start of a dialogue, like get the outcome driven, right, dialogue. If you can get that at the start, all of the other conversations become easier. Not easy, but easier.